My name's Jess from Melbourne Garden Quilts, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how I quilt feathers. I've already quilted the central spine of the feather. The only important thing I think with that is to keep, if you're going to put curves into it, make sure they're not too tight, because it makes it a bit tricky to get the other parts of the feathers to fit. These are very gentle curves that I've quilted around here. So I'll get started and show you how I do it. For the first one, I just come up that central spine a little bit and just quilt out almost to the edge of my space, and then echo along the first part of that just a little ways in, come back into the spine. So for the next one, I'll just travel up the spine again a tiny way. And then travel stitch back along the edge of that one. And start my next one. Again, up the spine. As you can see, it's just working your way up that central spine and popping a little feather shape out the side. Up the spine again. Now, because I'm approaching this outer curve here, I'm going to need to make them quite big to kind of get them to fit across around in that space. So they'll kind of stack in on top of one another. So I won't go quite so far in with this one. And the next one will curve to fill this little area here. Travel stitching back along the edge of that one. That one's a bit wider than I normally like to make it, but it'll look okay, I think, once I finish this feather. I think one of the key things is to keep the spaces, as you come out from that central spine, keep those spaces fairly consistent. like to do it too is to pop a couple of smaller ones, especially when you're on the inside of a curve. It's nice to put a couple of smaller ones and then have some others that kind of curve around outside those ones. So kind of back in on itself, I suppose. So I'm starting to approach the end of my feather here. You can see the end of the spine just up here. So I'll show you how I tackle. There's nothing special about it. I think there's different ways that you can tackle the end of a feather. This is just how I do it. It's kind of a no fuss way to do it. And I will be having more feathers that weave their way along the rest of this stripe. So they'll kind of sit end to end. So that one's brought me right to the end of that side. So normally what I do now is just do a couple of stitches just to get myself to the edge of the spine, and then I'll work my way right back around the feather that I've already done, this side of the feather, and just echo it. It's about probably a quarter to a half an inch away. The reason I do this is it's much easier to quilt feathers from the bottom up. So rather than try to start at the top of the other side, I'm working my way back down this side so that I'm in the position ready to do the next one. Or the next side, sorry. That's one reason I haven't brought the petals of the feathers right out to the edge of the space too, just so that I've got room to echo my way back around them. It's a nice way to give definition to having this little echo around each of the feathers. Especially if you're going to go and quilt other designs in around them, it just gives them a bit more definition, I think. So I'm working on the very bottom corner of this quilt, so it's a pretty easy area to do because I don't have a lot of quilt to wrangle in under my machine. So you can see there what this side of the feather's looking like. So I'm just going to travel up the very edge of that quilted space outside, like so less than a quarter inch from the edge. Right on the edge of the fabric. Just until I get to the other side of that spine. And so I'll do exactly the same thing on the top side now. of a weird space there, but because that's going to be so close to the edge of the quilt, I'm not too concerned. So echoing back along the top of that feather. Take that pin out before I get to it. I'm going to pop a smaller one because this is a bit of an inner curve. They're very smooth, very slight curves, so it's not. It makes it a lot easier to fit your feathers in around them. But I will pop a little one in here, so I can curve the next one out over the top of it. With this space that I'm approaching, because that is quite a tight curve, I'm going to need to sit them in, so I'm going to have a few little ones and then a big one just to get them to curve at the right angle. So I'll just come back down a little way and then curve that one around, and again the next one's going to be very small. This next one will be quite large to curve back in over the top of those couple there. You can hopefully see how that looks in that curved section. Just move the camera slightly. So they kind of sit in under each other to get through that inner curve. That's why most of the curves that I've done along the spine, I've done in fairly narrow curves, just so it's easier to move your way around them without having to tuck your feathered parts in around each other too much. And so I'll just keep working my way up the feather as I have been. Remembering to take pins out before you run over them. I have ditch quilted a lot of the seams on this already, which is why I don't have heaps of pins to remove as I'm going along. approaching the end of the spine at the moment. So I've given myself enough space to do one final petal, and then because I'm going to be sitting another feather right into the centre of this one and starting it to come out from the end, I'm not actually going to do a little capping shape, but often, once I'll show you in a second, sorry. So normally at this point I'd put just a little rounded shape at the top, but there's lots of different ways that you can finish feathers. It's probably worth googling to have a look at what people do. But in this case, I'd just echo right the way back down to the end of the feather like I did the other side. And then I'd just tie off my thread and start another wavy line coming out from this point here. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you can see how I do them. They're really fun, fast, and I think if you get a nice curve on each of those feathery shapes, it's a really nice thing that you can pop onto your quilt. You can fit them into just about any space too, so they're a really handy thing to be able to quilt. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another one.